AskReddit by Addictive Princes. What's the best example you have witnessed of someone destroying their own happiness life? Friend of a friend got caught in one of those to catch a predator style stings. Was messaging with what he thought was a 14-year-old and tried to meet up to have sex. Lost his wife, all his friends, his apprenticeship, and spent the next several years in prison. Watched the same thing happen. Had a wife, a kid on the way, a good job. I was in the same grade as his little sister, he was 2 years older, and we went to the same school from kindergarten through high school. Last year he was sentenced to almost 40 years in a federal prison for conspiracy to solicit a 14-year-old, who was actually an undercover agent, and a slew of CP charges. Now the wife has divorced him, he will never see his kid, and will be an old man when if he gets out. There were a lot of things he did said in online chat forums that are so horrible I couldn't even putting that shit out there. Some guy at work was caught red-handed stealing AirPods from the locker room. When he was sent to pick up his own kit before being sent home, he excused himself to go to the toilet and took a shit on the floor. The kicker is that we work on an oil rig. It's impossible to get away with theft, and he was a senior technician making really good money. He didn't need the AirPods, he was just stealing for the fun of it. He's now not required back, and all the companies talk to each other. He shat away his career over a pair of AirPods. My former company hired a safety officer into a really well-paid position. He was smart, personable, and really improved the safety program. He was caught buying gift cards and expensing them. Took down half the department with him, since they were in on it too. I will never understand destroying your career for a few $1,000s. Edited for spelling. My parents' old pastor and best friend. He had many friends, a successful music career, ran a music venue, had a doting wife, 5 kids. Then he decided to cheat on his wife. He became hugely paranoid and started tracking his wife and kids so that he knew where they were and he wouldn't get caught. He installed hidden cameras throughout his house because he convinced himself that his wife was probably cheating too. She wasn't. He also would tell her to stay home because no one likes you and no one wants you to come because you are boring. Also lies. My parents caught him red-handed all over a woman at a concert that he didn't think they would be at. They told his wife and she called him and he lied and then let slip that he knew where she was. That's when she found the cameras and the AirTag on her car. Now, none of his children talk to him. He lost the house, his friends, his music buddies, everything. The woman too. She left him when he had nothing to give. And he's not remotely apologetic about it and still tries to convince people that he was in the right. He lives in a trailer by the beach now, trying to relive his youth at 65. Recent example. Guy was a doctor and now cannot work because he hit his wife while they were getting divorced. I don't know the specifics of it, but the domestic violence offense on his record is prohibiting him from working in medicine. I had an acquaintance who was a doctor. His ex-wife was a piece of work. When they were married, she said that he would say he hit her if he didn't agree to one of her demands. It was a minor thing, so he relented and agreed to one of her demands. He told his boss at work that argument and his boss just basically said, "You can never be alone with this woman again. You will lose your career." He was looking into divorce anyway and knew that she wasn't above ruining his life, so he filed for divorce and made sure to never be alone with her again. All interactions were in public or with witnesses. My husband's friend. Had a beautiful wife, gorgeous house, 2 lovely boys, a job he loved and lots of great friends who loved him. Then he decided at the age of 35 to get into hard drugs. He has been in and out of prison for violent crimes, transportation of large volumes of heroin, attempted murder, burglary and stalking. He is homeless again as he burned down his flat on purpose to get a move. No one will ever talk to him again. He's now 55 and has nothing. His wife divorced him after giving him far too many chances. His sons hate him. His real friends gone forever. All for nothing. That's wild. Like 35 stable life, and he just wakes up one morning and is like, I'ma skip over soft drugs and land me a hardcore heroin addiction with dirty needles and throw it all away. Objectively, I'd say he had serious issues going on all his life and nobody either knew or cared enough. My best friend and hetero life mate. Early 30s, wife, kids, great job and lots of friends. He was always looking for inventive ways to party. He figured out that you could order dried poppy pods online, grind them up and make poppy tea. This stuff is strong, 4 6 ounces will have you floating on a cloud for 24 hours. Dosages kept going up over the next 10 years until he couldn't physically drink enough fluid to maintain his habit. Lost his wife, kids and then his 3rd-generation family business job. Then he switched to heroin. Living in a $500,000 home with no power or water. Junk is everywhere. When he OD'd, they stuffed his body in a closet for 3 days so they could burn through his credit and debit cards before reporting it to the police. Now his family is fighting squatters who have destroyed his home. I miss him every day. I'm sorry, man. That's horrible. There's a reason opium dens literally ruined an entire nation. That shit is no joke. My buddy Steve was the poster child for his all good career, amazing wife, cute house. Then, the model trains happened. Not little setups. This guy took over the whole basement, then the garage. His wife went from amused to livid. Arguments turned into screaming matches. She eventually left, and Steve, in his model train bliss, barely noticed. The twist? He inherited a ton of money, and spent it all on antique train sets. Eventually though, he noticed, and no model could cure the blues of losing his incredible wife. Wow. Apparently model trains are also a hell of a drug. When people get this destructively obsessed over a hobby, I kind of feel like there is some underlying mental issue at work. Sorry for your buddy. My dad started using crack in his 40s. He had a nice high-paying job doing what he loved, playing golf, and he even got to play golf with celebrities and presidents in the 90s. We still don't know for sure how he got started, but his current story is that he was out drinking and some guy said, hey, smoke this, and he did, and it was crack, and he was addicted from that point on. Lost his high-paying job within a few years of active addiction. Lost my mom, me and my siblings, everything. I guess he just woke up one day and decided to be a giant piece of shit. He's 69 years old now and locked up somewhere. This is almost exactly my uncle's story. Weird. He had his PGA card and crack took everything from him, including his wife and kids. But he's not in jail, but is probably homeless. My brother was offered a really well-paying job doing something he's excellent at. He thought it would be too easy, so he chose a much more challenging job in a less appealing environment with a boss who is a real jerk. He hoped to impress him. Now, he's really unhappy. I just don't understand why he puts himself through this kind of thing. It's like, I almost get where he's coming from, and it's not a good place to be. Back in high school, I used to hang out with people who didn't really think highly of me and I'd try to impress them. I don't even know why I did it. I'd tell myself stuff like their doubts will just make me work harder and become even better, but it just made my teenage years pretty tough. Good thing I left all that behind in college. My childhood best friend. She had created a really good life for herself and was well on her way to having a stable and successful rest of her life when she met a guy on a dating site and decided that he was the one. He turned out to be an abusive addict, but she was getting older and afraid that he was her last chance at love and decided to stay and try to make it work despite everyone who cared for her trying to help her see that she was making a mistake. She lost her good job, her nice house, her dreamed car, her hobbies, most of her friends, most of her family, her dog, her health, and every penny to her name. They ended up homeless, with him disabled and in very poor health, living in a car for a while, with her panhandling for money. They were drinking heavily, getting into drugs, stealing, grifting and scamming. He died while they were on the run from a serious crime and left. Our daughter is 25. Every few years she just randomly blows up her life. tells us not to talk to her, cuts off her real friends and makes them hate her. Ends up calling us months later because she's out of options friends. She's currently living with us, rent-free, no job, but has some plan on moving south with randos from the internet. Can't talk to her without her getting angry. We don't know what to do. It's so unsafe. She had a good job a year ago. Had a nice 2-bedroom apartment, a great friend who picked her up for work every day. My sister did this for many years since she turned 20. Periods of stability, then flying off the handle. She was diagnosed with bipolar disorder a few years ago. It was really hard on our family and we had no idea she was mentally ill. We thought she was just kind of a jerk. Mania can really make someone unrecognizable. I recommend getting your daughter help with a psychiatrist. My sister is now on meds and frequent therapy, with a consistent job and almost done with her degree. Someone I know, M32, went into a relationship with a 21-year-old girl, got his heart broken, got drunk and decided to drive his car 200+ kph and crashed. Someone I know married the daughter of a super wealthy guy, I'm talking 9 figures. She was also an amazing girl and definitely didn't act like the daughter of a rich guy. He cheated on her with a stripper, she divorced him, he's now dating said stripper and she's a psychopath. Deleted. I'm so sorry. One of my former friends from college worked as an analyst for a pretty big investment bank. He did not handle COVID and isolation well and got really into conspiracy theories and became a straight up racist. When he returned to office he refused to work with anyone with dark skin, Muslims or women he deemed inferior to his intellect. This did not go well with his boss, who was a second-generation Somali immigrant, and a Muslim, and a woman. He was fired and he still doesn't have found another job in the same league. My husband imploded his whole life, lost a beautiful home and family compound. We lived next door to family, to midlife crisis affair partner, only for it to blow up in his face a year later. He's now in a studio apartment alone and begging to come home. Nope. My best friend's ex-wife. He was the most loving husband who doted on her and gave her everything. They wanted to start a family. His family was also very accepting of her. She was a counselor who decided to cheat on him with one of her patients, not once, not twice, but 3 times. My friend finally saw the light and divorced her. He's now remarried to a fantastic woman who appreciates him as much as he does her, and they just had their first child. I don't know what the ex-wife is doing now, but I hope she knows what she threw away one day. There are countless examples of commercial pilots ruining their careers with simple arrests. Poor decision making one night, get caught, now your license to earn a living is permanently gone. It's brutal for a person to lose literally everything for blowing 0.08 during a field sobriety check, but I can appreciate the FAA being very strict for passenger safety. I have an ex-sil who has been a drunk for years. She was an attractive, fiercely intelligent, really cool, fun person who had mental health issues that were ignored for years. Eventually, she got that part under control and became a mental health professional. I think she probably is very good at it, but she's on a downward spiral. Her drinking is worse than ever. She has had 2 dwees. I won't let my kids go anywhere with her anymore because she drives drunk with them, or tries to get them to drive so she can drink. She got pulled over once and handed her marijuana and vaping pen to my kid and said, "Here, take this." I can't be caught with it. She cancels her appointments with her clients constantly. I know one person who was seeing her and they believe she was drunk during their sessions. I know somebody else whose mother works with her, and my friend is scared for her mother's safety. Geez. Please report her to her professional licensing board for the safety of her clients. I watched my friend smoke his boogers because his nose was too blocked to snort any more cocaine. Probably me when I was younger. I spent my entire teenage years alone because I gave up easily. Because I was scared of everything. I didn't have friends. love, dances, etc. I seriously was absolutely lifeless inside. You were not the only one. One of my former co-workers, a smart young man that most everybody liked. It was just a gas station cashiering job, not a hard job at all. Ben was only 22 and we're not sure if the attitude problem started before or after the drug use, but he suddenly started calling out sick, a lot. Whatever the reasons, since he couldn't handle the responsibilities of his job, they had to let him go. That's when his drug problem became apparent, as he was still seen around the neighborhood looking disheveled and lost. His best friend told us that he was found unresponsive after an OD and that he was in the ICU. The doctors were saying that the brain damage was irreversible and friends and family should just come say their goodbyes while he was still alive, so to speak. Friend who got married because he didn't want to break it off and thought he would just be better off. He's dying a slow death. I saw a quote that goes, some people died at 25 years old but only gets buried at 75. I finally understand what that means. I worked in it. We hired this just out of high school young man who was very sharp. Our company put him in an internship where we paid for his bachelor's degree in it, gave him a flexible part-time schedule, and guaranteed him a position with great promotion potential upon graduation. He ended up not going to classes though we were paying his tuition. Apparently there was no formal accountability, instead it was an honor system. After a few years he was found out and fired. I really liked the guy and was sad about the whole thing. He recently friended me on FB. He's not doing horribly but he's not doing great either. My stepdad never listened to my mom or ever considered her feelings or perspective on issues that dealt with the family. Eventually, my mom got tired of trying and asked for a divorce. He would get super drunk and smoke weed. One day he fell down some stairs and injured himself. He's basically a paraplegic now. I had no great love for him and haven't seen him since the accident, and my mother went several times to help him out. He didn't apologize for his behavior and just started to assume she was now going to spend her life taking care of him, ignoring the fact that they had been divorced for at least 5 years at this point and he had been in relationships with several other women. She no longer visits him. Side note, he was the kind of man that would pull the "if you can beat me in a fight, then you're the man of the house and can make the rules" line when I was still living at home in high school. I moved out as soon as I could at the age of 21 to be free of his petty tyranny. When I heard what had happened to him, I immediately bust out laughing because my first thought was to go to the hospital, kick down the door of his room and yell, "All right, old man, it's go time."